Hi, everybody. This is Aaron Murakami, and it's November 21st, 2014 at 11:30 a.m., and I have Eric Dollard on the line. And Eric, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Okay. So it's been a little bit since we've done an update. I think since the last one we've done, we've released the Landers Technical Tour, 4-hour video that nobody's seen before, and a couple other things. But start off with, could you give everybody an update on kind of what you and Justin has been doing with the seismic project out in the desert?
Well, the main thing we're doing is gathering the materials we need to put stuff together. So right now we're in the process of removing 2.2 miles of telephone line for the local water department that they're not using anymore. We're just wrapping that up. And then in an hour, we're on our way to the Death Valley area to salvage some wreckage left over from abandoned telephone lines out there. We'll do that for a couple of days. And the other antenna location in the Mojave Desert, to match the one that's here in the Nevada Desert, we made some real good progress on getting all that busted up stuff all back together and dead-ended, and we removed one pair that's not going to be used for the antenna, and that gave us about 1.25 miles of wire to put the antenna together with here. So we're doing pretty good. We're sore out of it, and it's been difficult on the muscles and tires on the car and the whole deal, but the progress has been absolutely outstanding. So the distant antenna is basically the physical structure is pretty much restored, and the next step is to convert it to antenna, and then with the materials that we're gathering from elsewhere, the one here in the Nevada Desert, we expect to start construction on it in April and actually start building something here.
Right. So this second antenna, for anybody listening that hasn't kept up on it, Eric is working on an advanced seismic warning system, which is a special type of antenna system that can listen to the earth sounds, amplify them, and you can basically see when an earthquake is coming. And so the secondary antenna, there's a main one near your lab, and then this remote one, operating both of those together, that kind of gives you a stereo type of effect? Is that correct?
Yeah, they're both, both antennas are as identical as we can make them. And then they have to be coupled together somehow in a stereo configuration, and that allows you to determine the direction of the signals.
Right. Kind of like triangulation, but you can actually do that with...
Yeah, well, we don't have 3 stations yet. That's I don't know if we'll ever reach that point because it's killing us just to put together 2.
Right.
Fortunately, one's pretty much already standing, and also fortunate, all the poles for the most part are up. So 5 here were disintegrated, so we have to replace those. That's going to be a lot of work, but being that we're trying to get this done as fast as possible, the first element we're going to put up is going to be with the poles that are already standing. But that brings us closer to this horrible power line interference complication that's rampant everywhere, and that's going to be our main obstacle, is getting the signals over the massive levels of power line interference that are getting worse and worse all the time.
Now with, kind of the schedule on the different phases for the seismic project, it seems like you might be a little bit ahead of schedule because the weather's been warm enough where you've actually been able to...
Yeah, that's what's helping out is this does not seem to be a drought winter, so it's running about 10 degrees, 20 degrees warmer, and none of these nasty desert winds that make it just completely, impossible to work outside. So far so good. So we're going to try to keep cranking away on this all the way to the end of December and see how far we can get. We've got quite a pile of equipment accumulating in the background, or not equipment so much, but insulators and bolts and rolls of wire and pins and cross arms, and
right.
So we're going to need about probably 30, 40 cross arms all together in this project. So we get 15 from here, another 5 from there, and I think we're going to get 2 or 3 poles today. There's The Junkmeister here in town has he had a pile. We got 7 cross arms out of that, and about 40 insulators. The water department line has yielded about 40 sets of hardware, braces, bolts, through bolts, insulator pins, and all that type of stuff. So the complication that we're going to be facing is where to put all this stuff. So we got expecting a massive load of material to come in here in about 2 weeks, probably about maybe 6,000 pounds of all kinds of this stuff that we're getting for like real cheap. So everything's moving along pretty good in that regard.
Right? No, that's awesome. So the antenna system that's near the lab, and then there's the remote one. And so you're mentioning a lot of the cable and stuff you're taking down. Some of it you can use, and some of it you can't, like some old iron wire. But you are at least able to get the insulator.
Yeah, I mean it's 80% of the cross arms are rotten in the 42 poles. But, we can cut the rotten ends off. We can use them as pull pair arms to hold just one pair of wires. But the thing is it's kind of, because, the government is our landlord, the town government and all that is, it's only fair that we help them out with what they need, and they really needed this line taken down bad. It was creating a lot of complications for them. The thing had become fortuitously energized with 440 volts, and wires are laying all around, and it was a disaster, and they needed somebody to come in and take care of it immediately without fooling around and evoking all kinds of complications and ripping them off. So at any rate, in trade, then they help us out.
Right.
By giving us space to do things and other materials that we need.
Sure.
So it's working out great.
Right. Now, so if you're listening to this and you're not too sure what the seismic project is, I don't know, maybe around 2007 or something like that, there was a facility known as the Landers facility, which had a fully operational seismic warning system based on all of this, and a lot of that was kind of taken away, and a lot of the stuff was looted and everything else. And so
it's the same thing that always happens to me, and pretty much the same class of people. In fact, actually, some of the same people that have been doing this to me over the decades, several decades. And there's no way, unless you're going to pay a lawyer $1 million, you can't defend yourself against these people. It's their world.
So on ericpdollard.com, there's different photo albums, and so if you want to see some pictures of what this might look like, go in there to the Landers section, and you can look at a bunch of pictures that were posted showing Eric guiding some people, putting up one of these telephone poles, and you can see some pictures of these antenna systems and a lot of the racks of equipment with all these amplifiers and scopes and all that kind of stuff, all this communication type system and chart recorders showing the recording these earth sounds, I guess you could say. And so that's all in there. Now, recently, we had just released a 4-hour video that, pretty much nobody has ever seen. And it was titled Eric Dollard's Telluric Research 2007. And but let me backtrack a little bit. When we released your talk from this year's conference, Extraluminal Transmission Systems of Tassel and Alexanderson, we gave away a free, I don't know, maybe almost a 1-hour video of just kind of a basic little tour of Landers, which is this facility. But just within the last few weeks, we launched this new video, which is an entire 4-hour tour that you go into a lot of technical detours, a lot of the math, and you explain pretty much piece by piece the entire facility. What was behind getting that documentary made?
Well, it's the usual fight and complications and denials, and it came about because of the San Francisco Tesla Society, which usually suppresses all of my presentations that I provide, but we knew that the station at that point was being put up for ransom by the people that had fraudulently managed to get ownership of it, and so I was desperate to try to get some help. Of course, the people that come to help me only want to help themselves, and the Tassel Society people, San Francisco Tassel Society people, came there hoping that they would learn free energy secrets. And took quite some time to get it through their head. There was no free energy secrets here, and then they wanted to leave, and I go, no, you came here, you're supposed to document this stuff, do it. So we proceeded to do that. I had to get nasty a few times to keep the ball rolling and what have you, so the thing's a little disjoint, but I don't have a full recollection exactly how it all transpired. I can't watch it myself because I have flashbacks after that. The loss of that station and the harassment and the loss of my dog and sabotaging of my car left me permanently disabled. So I can't really contribute a lot because of that.
Right. Well, I mean, the size of the project is absolutely, enormous. And
Three generations of work, starting with George Van Tassel,
who's famous for being the man behind the Integratron.
Yep, and then when these people that I previously mentioned managed to take the Integratron away from me, then I associated myself with a World War II veteran that worked in the top secret aerospace business in L.A. and was retired, and we both had the same dream. We wanted to build our own military base. And at that time, I still had full material backing from RCA and Bolinas. So I did about maybe 10 loads in my Celica of insulators and pins and wire and all that stuff. And then the telephone company line foreman, who was a friend of ours, contributed a lot of poles and wire and insulators. And then so I spent roughly 20 years building that installation, almost 30. From when I started in 1985, I think it was. And then they did something to Walt and killed him, and he died. And then it was willed to me and the line foreman. The line foreman turned out to be a snake and changed the will and got me written off of it. And then some local, I don't know what kind of word I would use that would be permissible in a generalized audience, but something you would find in the bottom of the bowl, got a hold of the property and then started the ransoming and the harassments, and then it just went downhill from there. But at any rate, I was being funded by a lot of money from Europe at the time, and it took me 10 years to finally, after Walt died and on the police fantasy 9/11 date, when was that? 2001? Yeah, whatever. He died a couple of weeks after that. I'd come back. Apparently, some people came in there armed from Montana who had tried to kidnap me up there when I was gone in Bolinas and had looted the place pretty severely, and Walt was laying on his deathbed and couldn't tell me what had happened. And the usual scallywags were trying to embezzle the property, and the whole thing. So at any rate, I got all that set straight with the will and what have you, and then and continued work with the funding from Europe. And it took me 10 years to finally develop that telluric receiver. It's a massive project. When you look at the pictures, you have to keep in mind that virtually everything you see in those pictures I built by hand out of scrap metal. I worked the surplus business for 20 years in Los Angeles to get all the parts to build that stuff with, which are no longer available. It never can be replaced. I had a parts inventory there that virtually I was Western Electric. I could, from scrap metal, 4 months per panel, I could turn out stuff that looked just like the phone company or the Navy made it, exactly to their standards, because I know all those standards. And I had, massive quantities of parts and tools and benches, and it was an incredible facility. And then once the thing was finally finished in all its various aspects, then the story of Eric Dollard's life unfolds, and it was taken away from me and looted. Everything was looted. My car collection, everything, all gone. It was the legal system declared me a squatter on the property, and none of the equipment or the cars were mine. That's how it works. You just get some judge to say, you're out, and that was the end of the whole thing. And then I just disappeared into the bushes, lost my pet coyote, and my car was sabotaged, and crash landed in Lone Pine, and that's how you all came to know about me.
With the writings you did in the front seat of your car that went on energetic form from the beginning, and that's what eventually came in for the Lone Pine
Started with those
writings.
Lone Pine writings, and then the only thing left to do was, I was destitute. I needed something to do. The local public utility people there made sure, that I had a place land to stay on and all that, and nobody bothered me, so that was good. Then I did certain things in trade for them, and, then some donations started showing up, and I got, my general assistance and food stamps, and finally managed to get the car back up and, where I could travel again, and it took about 2 years. Wasn't a lot of fun, let me tell you. You should try living in your car in the desert.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've lived in a car for 3 months in the middle of winter one time when I was in Japan, and that was about all I wanted to experience with that.
Yeah, well, see, I've been living in the Corolla since 1987.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it was nicer in Bolinas.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough in the desert, really tough.
Yeah. So this whole seismic project, well, it's good that you kind of pushed them to film that, because otherwise we wouldn't have that documentation.
Yeah, and they weren't particularly prone to letting me have copies of it either, but somebody managed to squeeze a few copies out, got them away, got them out of the hands, and that's how some of this stuff has made it out on the Internet now, like that 1 4-hour presentation I gave on the history of the, and the theories of electricity and all that, which was a massive effort that damn near wiped me out.
Yeah, and that's available for free viewing if you're listening to this, and if you want to see some of those presentations that are available free online, go to ericpdollard.com, and there's a link for free videos, I think is the name of the link. And if you just mouse over that, you'll see 4 different titles. There's like an old RCA or some type of. Actually, let me go there right now because. Sure.
Yeah, the RCA one was done a long, long time ago. That's an old one.
Okay, yeah. So
that's one with Tom Brown.
Right. Okay, so on ericpdollard.com, there's a link that says free videos, and so there's 4 presentations in there. One is History and Theory of Electricity. One is History of the Marconi RCA Station, Bolinas, California. One is called The Origins of Energy Synthesis, which I think some people were calling originally the theory of anti-relativity, but this is, I think, the actual name. And then there's the Tesla Marconi wireless system. So
yeah, there's 2 videos in that, and one of them is not recoverable.
Okay, so anybody can come here, click on them. It'll basically take you to a page where the video is embedded, and you can watch those. And between those 4 videos, that's a lot of hours of presentation. So some of them are, they're several hours apiece. And so definitely.
Yeah, they took each one of those took about 2 or 3 months to put together.
Uh-huh.
Just like the last 2 presentations I did. The
right.
First presentation, the 4-quadrant thing, I think I worked on that for almost 6 months.
And that's the 4-quadrant representation of electricity. And the last one you did, extraluminal transmission systems of Tassel and Alexanderson. That was 4.5 hours right there. And if you're listening to this, and if you don't have these presentations, those are the newer ones. On ericpdollard.com, there's a books and videos link, and these are the ones that you can actually purchase. And when you purchase those from this link on Eric's page, 70% of the purchase goes to Eric and EPD Labs to further their work. But the 4-quadrant representation of electricity is in there, Lone Pine writings, extra-luminal transmission systems of Tassel and Alexanderson and wireless giant of the Pacific. Anytime anybody buys any of these from Eric's page, 70% goes to supporting EPD Labs. So that's a good way to support the work. And also, if you go to on ericpdollar.com, in the right column, you can join Eric's newsletter if you want. It's basically, I manage that mailing list, and I just send out announcements, when new stuff is posted on this page or any other updates relating to Eric and his work. But there's a support Eric Dollard section, and if you want to send checks or money orders, which are tax deductible because EPD Labs is a 501c3 charitable nonprofit, so any of your donations are tax deductible. And you can send those to the Davenport, California address, or you can click the Donate by PayPal button, and you can donate directly to PayPal. And if you want to correspond to Eric personally, please don't send personal letters to the Davenport address. That's just for business. Instead, use the Eric Dollard General Delivery, Lone Pine, California, 93545 address. And that's posted right there in that section on
so there's a few people that are sending me donations at the Lone Pine, and that's what's paying for all of this work right now. So there's some people that call themselves the Eric Dollard Fan Club. I don't have a clue who they are. They don't have a return address or anything, but right now their money is going to go across the counter in the Chevron station at the supermarket, so we can get out to Death Valley and do our work. Otherwise, I would have been pretty pinched this month. So those type of donations are really critical because the smaller amounts without a lot of corporate fooling around, because we got to take care of all that paperwork ourselves, and it's almost like half the job. So for larger donations, or when people need a tax compensation, the corporation thing is good for that. But for petty cash type stuff, minor donations like people send me $20 or $50 or whatever, that's also very important.
Right. Yeah. So whoever you guys are, guys or gals with the Eric Dollard Fan Club who's been sending donations to Eric, thank you for doing that. And it's definitely getting put to good use. So the way that
it's really been. I mean, it's been a gift from God. It's just really that money just makes everything. Otherwise, I have to pay for the whole thing out of my Social Security, which is extremely difficult.
Right. So the way that all the funding works and what the funding situation is with Eric's work in the lab is, so you mostly personally live off of the Social Security, which that gives you your personal stuff, buying groceries and that kind of stuff. And then when people buy these books, these book and video packages and stuff through the system, that money basically pays for rent, utilities, insurance, and lab-related expenses. And then you have these other miscellaneous donations which help pay for gas for going out to the desert and collecting all these telephone cables, insulators, and that kind of stuff. And so there's some money set aside for the seismic project from Indiegogo, and that's all going directly into that project. And so whatever you can donate, no amount is too small. And if you're able to make larger donations, it's definitely appreciated, and that helps move the work forward.
We could definitely use a few larger donations right now, because all the insurance and all that type of stuff is just coming as a big chunk, and it's basically just about wiped out the building operating fund, and we still have $4,000 left over from the Indiegogo, but I can't spend that on anything right now because we can't let the bank account drop below a certain level, and that's all that's left. So that's kind of holding up buying any more equipment or what have you. So it's pretty much the money that people send me and through the postal system, the checks and what have you, that's keeping it going. Right. I mean, it's when we're full bore operating, and humping out there. It's $50 a day.
Right. Now, I don't want
that adds up to a big number after 30 days,
Right. Now, when you're mentioning, all this insurance and stuff due and everything, I don't want to give too many details right now. But for anybody that's listening, there is a building purchase happening right now where EPD Labs is moving in the direction of becoming the owners of the building. And I think that's probably all we have to mention at this point.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, and then we can give details.
Yeah, we're making one important step in that direction, and then basically, if somebody gave us $25,000, then that would be it. Then the building would belong to EPD Laboratories, and a lot of these insurance expenses and other things and title deals, and that's stuff that I don't know about because I live in my Corolla.
Right.
But at any rate, that would go away, and the rent would go away, and then all the money can go straight, other than the cost of utilities, can go straight into projects.
Right.
That would set the situation, and then we could operate instead of like 20% efficiency, we could operate about 80% efficiency as far as money in to money that actually you can see on the top of a telephone pole.
Right.
And we're going to have quite an extensive photographic collection too coming up out of all this. I would imagine in a couple of weeks, so you can actually see what we're working on.
Right. Yeah, and I'll be posting those in the blog. I'll make some photo gallery or something on ericpdollar.com to show what you guys have been doing. And so again, if you just what Eric said, 25,000. What that basically means is there's a big step being made for EPD Labs to become the owners of the building, and within here in a couple months, all that's going to be left is $25,000, and once $25,000 is paid off, the entire building is going to be owned by EPD Labs. And so, any of the money going to making any of the payments is all going into equipment and everything else. So if there's anybody out there who does have the ability to, write a $25,000 check, let us know, and the building will be outright owned by EPD Labs, and that's a huge step for, has that ever happened? In the past, it hasn't always been somebody else who has kind of owned the property. I mean,
that's always been the problem, and then somebody gets in there and tampers with the situation, and then all of a sudden everything's all screwed up.
Right. Yeah. So this is really looking up. So this is really good news. We can only say so much right now, but we'll be giving more details probably here in a few months. But okay. So yeah. So if you want to, if you want to learn more about this Landers facility, it's really profound. On Eric's page, ericpdollar.com, go to the books and videos link, and then click on extraluminal transmission systems of Tesla and Alexanderson. If you don't have that presentation, recommend that you definitely get that. That was a 4-hour presentation that Eric gave at the recent conference. But also on that page is where you can get a copy of that 4-hour video where Eric walks you through, it's kind of like a mini course on electrical engineering, going back to the so-called Heaviside telegraph equation, and where you're sitting side by side with somebody, actually just walking them through this on paper, and then you go out to the field, you explain what the different antennas are, all the lightning arresters, you walk them through the racks of equipment. There's a good section where you're just looking at the scope with these earth sounds coming through, and kind of giving comments on that. And so you can, purchase either one of those, either the extraluminal talk or that 4 hours Landers technical tour, or you can get them both at a discount, and that money, 70% will go to EPD Labs to help, go towards the building insurance and that kind of stuff. Now, there's two more things I want to touch on, Eric. Let's see, I know you guys got to take off soon, and so do I. So there's just a couple more things I want to touch on. I just want to mention really quick that there's you have a lot of fans in Facebook on your page, and we won't have time to do it on this call, but there's a lot of people who have posted questions and sent in messages and stuff like that. So at some point I'll compile those, and then we can do we can do a call just to answer those questions. Maybe we can even do a live call and invite people and stuff. We can look at what the schedule is for that. I just happened to talk to D.R. Green, who's D.R. Green is somebody who's a regular contributor on Energetic Forum in Eric Dollard's thread. He's built different devices based on Eric's work, created some things, and he's one of the more knowledgeable members. I just happened to talk to him recently and said I was going to be talking to you soon. So he Skyped me a couple questions. These will be a little bit technical, but and then after this, we'll talk a little bit about your upcoming conference presentation. Okay, so D.R. Green, what he Skyped was, okay, I've been wanting to add some transformers before the TMT, I guess that's Tesla magnifying transmitter, to increase the voltage using resonant transformers like Tesla described somewhere. And in that new video, Eric says to amplify electrically rather than electronically. So all the more reason to get to work on it. So I suppose the question is how to go about it. If I just make a half-wave resonant transformer and connect its secondary directly to the TMT primary, would it basically be a short circuit and I wouldn't expect to get much voltage? So how is it done properly?
Yeah, it's not really good to do that. Because then you're going to get into all these interactions and like trying to get the Tesla coil to resonate on its own.
Okay, and then he has let's see, just one or two more sentences here. In basic terms, the setup would be amplifier output approximately 30 volts peak to peak, connected to step-up resonant transformer with half-wave in principle, secondary for a higher voltage than the amplifier output, which would connect to the TMT primary. So I just want to increase the amplifier output voltage basically and still have it work when I connect it to the TMT primary.
Yeah, it's not good to go about it that way.
Do you have any advice for him, for D.R. Green?
Well, the thing is that the main transformers, if the primary resonant circuit is proportioned properly, it can be proportioned for actually any voltage. But it's best that the initial source of voltage be the plate voltage of the tubes, and that goes to the transformer. To be putting an interstage in there would cause all kinds of coupling problems, and tuning would be extremely difficult, and calculation would be extremely difficult also. So it's better just to go right from the output tank circuit or whatever, the transmitter or the plates of the tubes themselves, right straight to the magnifying transformer.
Okay.
Now, if you want to keep raising the voltage or the potential or electromotive force, however you want to say, after that point, that's what the extra coil's for, and of course that has all the complications that come with trying to get it to resonate on its own. So if you try to do it back in the other direction, there's going to be the same complications. So we're going through that right now, trying to get with John Polakowski, trying to get the TCS matched better to the transformer. The matching network is a very difficult thing to figure out.
Well, I hope that helps you out, D.R. Green. If you have any more questions,
well, he can also write me a letter.
Yeah, I know he travels around a lot, so I just happened to catch him when he's home. So he Skyped me that. But okay. Well, before we wrap up this call, let's talk a little bit about the conference. So this year, or actually next year, for the 2015 Energy Science and Technology Conference, normally we have it at the last Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of June, but we're not going to do that anymore because it's during an Ironman triathlon, which is in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and there's also Hoop Fest, the world's largest 3-on-3 basketball tournament in Spokane, and so hotel rooms everywhere are just so booked up that it's hard for anybody to get a decent rate on a room. So this year we're going to be doing it on July 10th, 11th, and 12th, which I believe is maybe the second Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in July. And there's all kinds of rooms available in the $50, $60 price range, so it'll be way more affordable for everybody. And normally we've been doing this at an Eagles Lodge in Hayden, Idaho, which is about 15 minutes north of Coeur d'Alene. If you don't know where Coeur d'Alene is, it's about 45 minutes east on Highway 90 from the Spokane, Washington, the Spokane International Airport. And so, but this time we're going to be doing it at an Eagles Lodge downtown Coeur d'Alene, right across the street from the resort. So it's going to be in walking distance from all kinds of hotels, motels, walking distance from restaurants. And so it'll be a lot more convenient. And so what do you want to mention about what you're looking at speaking on at this next conference?
Well, I'm thinking of building it around the power of music theme.
Okay, so a lot of sacred geometry and music.
Yeah, it's going to be what I originally, based on the original, the Camp David antenna and the Steinmetz and Pythagoras Verser papers that I wrote. I'm planning on that.
Those are like the Camp David antenna and the Pythagorean ones. Those are all posted in Energetic Forum, and I believe those are in Lone Pine Writings, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the second volume, the Lone Pine Writings, they should be in there.
Yeah, there's a compilation of like 5 or 6 papers or something, and so those are in there. And so that goes into a lot of the sacred geometry and music concepts. And so this is something that would be something that a lot more people can relate to.
Yeah, it's kind of the different, there'll be those people that won't like it because it's regarded as metaphysical. There will be people that do like it. It turns out to be that those 2 papers I just mentioned are some of my most popular, judging from the letters I get. So it's going to be kind of 3-phase power, and Johann Sebastian Bach will be unified.
Mm-hmm.
So I've basically the sequence algebra book, which is starting to come out in sections now, accomplishes that. That particular part has not been. I still have to send that to you. That's the second volume.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have to figure out a way to bring that more down to earth, and we'll see. I'm going to start on the project in January, so we'll see how it goes. Right now it's kind of preliminary, so it's hard to say. I'm still, wrapping up the book from the last presentation, which will probably take me about 3 or 4 years to finish. So I got the first part of it is just about done. You should be getting that in about a month. And I still have to wrap up the Verser algebra book, the concluding part of that. So between that and this antenna stuff, I'm pretty swamped.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff, a lot of material brewing.
So now we mentioned it in the past, but just to be clear on it, you're talking about literally unifying the music of Bach mathematically with polyphase electrical systems, power systems. Right.
Yeah, basically I reached that point when I was writing this, so I could finally see how this what I refer to as sequence algebra, which is very essential in understanding how polyphase system works. And it's a type of mathematics that's very much different from the way mathematics is normally orientated, because you can't use plus and minus anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that in the introductory chapters of the Verser algebra book, which I believe is that out yet, or at least the raw form of it is out on Energetic Forum, that lays the basic groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
And develops all the way into the full-blown theory, and then the part which I finished that I have to send to you then relates that directly as application to 3-phase systems, 4-phase systems, etc. And then the part that I still have to write and finish is specific examples, like motors and generators and power lines and transformers and all that stuff. So, but
right.
I had to take a break from that because the book from the last presentation has really turned out to be a whopper.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably going to be the most extensive thing I've ever written. Between that and the Verser algebra thing, which I think altogether is going to have over 1,000 equations, took a year to write. This one's going to be, until we started this project, I was working on 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for months.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some part, some of that was supposed to go out in the energetic form, but the person apparently who was supposed to put that out flaked. I really have no one to put my material out anymore in the energetic form, so that's why nothing's happening, and I have no way to see it. I know I've heard, through the mail, people tell me that there's a lot of indignant people. Well, where's Eric, and why doesn't he come on here or there? Well, there's really nothing I can do about it. If people can't place demands on me, situation, I have no control. I don't, I live in my car in the bushes. There are no computers. I don't want any computers. You can write me in the mail.
Right. So somebody does have some stuff that's supposed to be going into energetic form at some point.
Yeah, that was the inductance and capacitance chapters from the book on the last presentation. All I can really do is put out, bits and pieces of the material that's turning into these books. Hopefully, the people can comment and interact on the subject, which is pretty much you have to write me a letter. And as everybody knows, when you write me a letter, you do get a response.
Right.
And if you're a goofball, and you're out there talking to space people, well, then you get a postcard of a coyote.
So getting back to Bach, which is going to be part of the subject that you're looking at talking on at the next conference. You basically have mentioned before that you consider him the Tesla of music.
Yeah.
And so now, do you think Bach, was he, intentionally using these type of mathematics, or was he just like naturally tuned in where it just happens to be that his music?
Well, this is how music evolved from the advent of what's called polyphony, because the music as conceived by Pythagoras and the ancient masters was not even intended to be performed. It was conceptual and you might say voodoo orientated. It made things happen. It caused people to do things, and it caused reality to change. That's the concept of power of music. Of course, right now the human race is in such a degenerate form of de-evolution that, those powers are gone from humans. Humans have basically just turned into clawing slugs. But back then, there was, with ancient Egypt and all that, and some of these other cultures, pre-Babylonian cultures, these people had intense abilities. So then with the Dark Ages and everything, it all kind of died out, but the church kept it going. The music was all melody. There was no harmony and there was no percussive instrument. And then in the church, polyphony started to result where you had two lines of music instead of one, which in electricity you would call two-phase. So now you have two progressions which have to relate to each other so they don't fight or jam up. And that's the difficult part. You have to maintain the harmony with the melody. The four-quadrant theory starts to basically lay the groundwork for that. Mm-hmm. And then as polyphony evolved, then Johann Sebastian Bach became the master of it, where you could have as many as 7 or 8 phases. The music goes both forwards and backwards in time. No one really understands how his mind could conceive such things, and he was the high master of it. It was not of his invention. It was basically the concepts that rose to the point where he could take it to the final level, just like Tesla. People make all these, think that Tesla created, invented, and discovered a lot of things. Well, Tesla really was just riding the wave of all the people of his time. Mm-hmm. Tesla was not an isolated individual, neither was Bach, but both Bach and Tesla, once they had reached, their lifespans, all of their material was highly suppressed, and if not outright destroyed. And Bach would have been lost forever if it wasn't for the effort of principally Albert Schweitzer was the one that brought Bach back into prominence again. Okay. And then when the, I don't know what you would call it, that happened there in San Francisco, the movement or People have different names for it. Before it got converted to communism, it was in the mid-'60s, was very musically orientated, and at that point there was a massive resurgence in the interest in music of Bach, Handel, and Vivaldi, and the people that preceded them. And I was lucky enough to be right in the middle of the time studying music in college. Of course, that's all died out again. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you're a classical musician, chances are you're unemployed. And I would expect in the next 10 years there won't be any more classical music. It's just going to be these guttural sounds you hear humping and thumping out of automobiles that look like salamanders and snakes. Mm-hmm. That's where we're heading. So again, in a kind of a Pythagorean sense, it's the followers of Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans were the keepers of the ancient secrets, which in the Dark Ages and what have you were worthless to society. And that's what's going to happen again with most of the electrical stuff, like with Tesla, and once over again with the music and all that, is it will just disappear, below the deck plates and the bilge, and come back hopefully 1,000 or 2,000 years later when the human race manages to reconfigure itself into something worthwhile.
Now, have you ever done a presentation on this type of topic, like maybe back in the old Borderlands days, or any on sacred geometry and math and Bach, or is this?
No, not really. Not really, and I know a lot more now than I did a long time ago too, because I continue to study this stuff. I listen to 6 hours of music a day, mm-hmm. and needless to say, I'm always studying to put these presentations together and what have you, and thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of study go into that. So I've reached the point, which you usually do when you're about 60 years old, that you start to get kind of a general picture of things and how it all connects together, and at that point.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're listening to this, if you want to kind of get a feel for a little bit more on, the power of music concepts Eric's talking about, you did do an interview on the phone before, and that's posted on YouTube. I'll find a link to it. But the sound quality is not too good. There was problems with the phone. It's a little bit muffled and stuff, but you can still make it out. It's actually probably one of the more popular interviews that Eric has done. And so at the upcoming conference, it's going to take that concept to a whole new level, showing.
Well, I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to. Right now, I mean, it's like all these things. When you first look at them, it just seems insurmountable.
Right.
But
at least we're getting an earlier start this year on getting the conference together. So at least.
Yeah. Well, there's a person in Lone Pine that actually got me started in all this with a book called "The Music of the Spheres" by a person named Jameson. And that really reawakened all of my early Navy and college days study of music when I first discovered Bach and all these type of things, and caused a revelation. And immediately those two papers came out of it. I'm kind of a little foggy on it now. I'll have to pick it back up again. But if anyone wants to get an overview of that particular concept of the power of music, the Jameson book is really a good place to start. It really gave me, brought all those things back into my mind again that when I used to be much more into music at an earlier age. Because, street life and living in my car and all that, music no longer existed. And I didn't really think about it. It's only since I have this place here and I got, the semblance of my sound studio together that I can fully engage in the music, and that's what, of course, has caused a massive increase in my writing output. All derived from the music I listen to. Everything, all the books and all the presentations are all derived out of the music I listen to.
Right. Yeah. So if you're interested in coming to the conference and meeting Eric and being there in person while he gives a presentation, you can go to EnergyScienceConference.com. That's EnergyScienceConference.com. And in the right column, you can sign up for a free mailing list. That'll give you all the updates. Normally we just have 150 seats available. We're really kind of only taking registrations right now from people who went to past conferences, just as a thank you to them and give them priority seating. And even before we announced who any of the speakers were going to be, there's already something like 25 registrations have already been taken. Roughly 16% of the seats are already taken, before we announced the speaker. And we only announced 3 speakers so far. One is you, one is Jim Murray, and one is Paul Babcock. We're just confirming some of the other speakers, and we'll be giving more details on their talks and on the topics of the presentations. But if 16% of the seats registrations are already filled before mentioning any of the speakers, then that means it's going to be another full house. So when we open registration up to everybody, make sure you register right away. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get a seat to this conference. And so, let's see. I'll post. If we don't have a link to the Power of Music interview you did, I'll embed a YouTube video into ericpdollar.com, so everybody could just go there and see that, in case you want to get a feel for that. But the Camp David antenna paper and that Pythagorean paper that Eric is mentioning, if you go to ericpdollar.com, click on the Books and Videos link, and click on Lone Pine Writings, and get a copy of Part 1 and Part 2 of Lone Pine Writings. All those papers are in there. You can search for those papers for free in energetic form if you want, but by getting a copy of those books through Eric's website, 70% of the purchase will go to support Eric in the lab. So I think with that, do you have any final comments or anything before we wrap it up? I know we both got to get going here.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything.
Okay. And when are you going to be available again on the phone? Maybe we can, organize another call and maybe invite some people to, do a live Q&A session or something.
Yeah, we plan to be back Monday.
Okay, Monday the 24th?
Yeah, and then after that it gets a little hectic again because we got like I say, we have about 5,000 or 6,000 pounds of equipment sitting over in Sacramento, California that we got to get, and we got this Howie Day thing right in the middle of it and all that, so I might have to, it's going to be hard to get the truck. I might have to drive the driver a couple hundred miles up to Reno or someplace to get, so it's going to be kind of erratic. But one thing is, as far as the Howie Days go, I always hide, and I will hide here. So over that interval, I'll be here the whole 4-day episode.
Okay. We'll play by ear, and then we'll look at what we can do, and then, okay. Well, Eric, appreciate your time. Thanks for the updates, and I'll keep you posted. And okay, well, thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Okay,
and,
thank you.
And we'll be talking soon.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Okay, yep, bye.